the CEO of VMV Hypoallergenics. We're here to save the world's skin with the safest, most proven effective care on the planet. And today I will be doing another skin installment of Allergen-Not An Allergen. But before I get into that, please don't forget to follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and to check our blog, vmvinskin.com. Among other things, all the answers to Allergen-Not An Allergen are on the blog in the Allergen-Not An Allergen tab, so you can't miss it. And it's really helpful for helping you manage your contact dermatitis and other sensitive skin conditions, as well as your acne, because a lot of allergens can irritate the pore and cause inflammation and contribute to acne, and even to your dark spots, because so many allergens are also photoallergens. So that is something to keep in mind. Today we'll be talking about topical steroids, corticosteroids for the skin, and whether or not they're allergens or not. Some things to remind you of. When we talk about allergens, we are referring specifically to contact allergens, skin allergens that are determined, say, by patch testing. So we're not talking about like food allergens or dander and pollen and things like that. In fact, if you prick test positive to something, it is actually more likely than not that you can still use it on your skin, unless you also patch test positive for it. The reason is that type 1 reactions, those types of allergies, dander, bee stings, food for the most part, pollen, those are type 1 reactions. They are IgE mediated and they involve antibodies. Skin allergies, for the most part, are type 4 reactions. They are not IgE mediated, do not involve antibodies, and do involve T cells. So entirely different modalities, which is why if you prick test positive for something, you can probably still use it on your skin. Again, unless you also patch test positive for it. As our reference for top contact allergens, we refer to the regularly published lists of top contact allergens by really amazing specialists in the field. For example, the North American Contact Dermatitis Group and European Surveillance System on Contact Allergies, because they're very regularly published and because they are based on thousands and thousands of patch tests, 28,000 plus. And the final note I want to make is just because something is a top contact allergen doesn't mean that you can't use it, right? Your patch test is still the best guide. You might have, for example, patch tested positive to dyes, but not to tea tree oil, which means you can still use tea tree oil even if it is a top contact allergen, for example. So if you have had a history of skin problems, a patch test is a great idea. And then you can contact us and we can even help customize recommendations for you based on your particular patch test results and possible cross-reactants. Today we will be talking about topical steroids. You will normally see them as an ointment or as a cream. I don't know if you can see that. I won't even apply it on me right now. So would you say the topical steroid is an allergen or not an allergen? If you guessed allergen, you would be right. And it's actually really interesting because topical steroids are fantastic for helping sensitive skin or really severe reactions like a contact urticaria or an allergic reaction to something. If you are prescribed a steroid, a topical steroid, you should take it because it is important to quickly bring down certain inflammations for your safety, right? What is key, though, about topical steroids is not to use them long term. They're not daily lotions. Sort of a standard rule, unless your dermatologist prescribes differently, is to use a topical steroid for no longer than, say, 2 weeks. After that, you really shouldn't use it, or you shouldn't need it, because you should be practicing proper prevention. What is frustrating about this is you have a product that is intended to soothe sensitive skin and itching and reactions that actually could be making it worse because it's a top contact allergen. Topical steroids, again, can be really dramatic and wonderful, which is why people love using them. But it does have serious health risks above and beyond the allergenicity of them. For example, they can really thin the skin. They can really disrupt the skin's important barrier, which is the thin topmost stratum corneum layer of the skin. It is very important for your protection, the protection of your skin and the protection of your body from the outside world. And atopic skin conditions, eczematous skin conditions, psoriasis, already have compromised barrier layers to begin with for the most part. So daily use of steroids will actually thin that even more. And as that happens, you then thin the skin. It becomes far more susceptible for opportunistic infection by different microbes, which can cause a secondary infection and be another thing to deal with. The constant use of steroids can also cause tachyphylaxis, which is an increasing tolerance to the treatment. So you need more and more and more and more of the topical steroid to get the relief that you used to get with just a small amount of application. And so, of course, the more you use it, then the more you cause this thinning of the skin, and it becomes a real issue. One more thing about topical steroids is they can cause steroidal acne. There's a lot of stuff with topical steroids. In addition, topical steroids are one of the few substances that can really penetrate the epidermis and dermis and get to your bloodstream, and eventually can cause adrenal issues, real health concerns that are very, very difficult to deal with. So the goal is to get off of topical steroids and really have them only for emergencies. If you're practicing proper prevention, then you really should only use them on very sporadically, very occasionally throughout the year. The other thing about topical steroids is when you finally try to get off them, let's say you've been using one for years and years and years daily or weekly, and your dermatologist says, listen, this is really already too risky, we got to get you off of this. What's pretty common is something called a rebound effect, where you get off of the steroids and your skin just sort of riots. It gets very angry and is really unhappy while the steroids are getting out of your system. My mother, for example, has had to hospitalize quite a few patients who've been on steroids for years and years and years and years, using them daily or weekly, almost like a daily lotion. And in a hospital, she'd have to keep them in a very controlled environment, very little light, no fragrance in the laundry, and, massaged and cared for every single day with pure virgin coconut oil and petrolatum, for example, or our boo-boo balm, to help the skin repair itself, get rid of the steroids, and then rebuild the barrier layer. So topical steroids really are not for daily use. If you were on them regularly, we would strongly suggest asking your doctor about a patch test to find out what particularly you are allergic to, what is triggering your itching or the condition for which you're using the topical steroid, so that you can practice proper prevention and just be steroid free for the most part. As alternatives to steroids, let's say that you have gotten off of steroids, you're practicing proper prevention. My patch test says I am sensitive to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I am absolutely careful, and I really don't use any of those things in my skincare, my hair care, my makeup, stuff around the house to clean the house, electronics, whatever, but I still occasionally get some flare-ups. Some things that can help, our organic, cold, first-pressed, clinically published virgin coconut oil, which is Know-It oil. This is an abstract of one of the clinical studies on it, actually. Or oils well. Those used daily can really help bring down inflammation, can really help strengthen the barrier layer of the skin, and are wonderful options to controlling inflammation, triggers, and potential flare-ups. Another nice thing that you can do if you feel a flare-up sort of percolating is to use boo-boo balm. You can apply it thickly, right, on the affected lesions, and then do like a cotton wrap overnight around it for a very intensive occlusion therapy. Or use Red Better Calm the Heck Down Balm when there's redness already. It's a wonderful anti-inflammatory that you can consider, and it is steroid free. So there are corticosteroids. A lot of topical steroids are actually top contact allergens, and you shouldn't really be on them regularly anyway. They are important to take when prescribed, absolutely, but not for long term, not for daily use, not for many years. You should be relying on prevention and possibly barrier repair and sun and light protection both indoors and out instead of steroids. A little bit about us. VMV Hypoallergenics is the safest, most proven effective care on the planet, and how we do that is basically through allergen omission. We do not include all or as many as possible of the top contact allergens in our formulations. We have a grading system of sorts called the Validated Hypoallergenic Rating System, or VH rating system, that shows you at an instant, a very quick glance, how many allergens are omitted from a formulation. It says validated hypoallergenic minus 109 over 109, so that's without 109 allergens out of all 109 allergens. If there were an allergen in that formulation, it would be, say, VH108, and there would be an asterisk that corresponds to the allergen included in the ingredients list. So you can see immediately if it's one allergen that you have patch tested positive for. If, for example, you patch tested positive for parabens, but the included allergen is vitamin E, which is a wonderful antioxidant, then you can still use the product. So it's really, really helpful. So helpful that a clinical study published in a top peer-reviewed journal for contact dermatitis has shown less than 0.1% reactions reported in over 30 years. So very, very safe. And in terms of efficacy, we publish our clinical studies regularly in peer-reviewed journals. To get one published is a really big deal. And thanks to my mother, who's our founding dermatopathologist, who herself has hundreds in her name, we have over 80. So we're big believers in evidence-based clinical studies that are published in peer-reviewed journals to prove their veracity, their validity, evidence, right? So most proven effective. That's how we do it. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're putting up a lot of content every week. And our blog, vmvinskin.com, where there's loads of helpful information. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments. Let us know what else you'd like us to talk about, or other things that you'd like to know. Is this an allergen or is it not? Certainly share this video with someone if you think that it could be helpful. That's it for today. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.